What's up, guys? Matt back here with Phoenix Flippers. I sold a board game today, so I'm going to go over with you guys how I ship it. Okay, guys, so this is the game I sold, Stratego. It's a pretty fun game. You can see it's a pretty normal-sized box to ship. I'm going to go over the different ways that you can ship it and how I ship it. So we'll be right back with that. Alright, guys, so this is your traditional large flat rate box. Some call it a board game box. You can see even USPS puts little board game symbols on it. This is big enough to fit my game pretty easily. Let me pull the game out here. As you can see, I mean, the flap is right here, and then the other one's right there, so there's plenty of room. The problem with this box is it costs over $19 to ship it. They didn't even pay that much for the game. So I'm not going to use this big box. I'm just showing you as an option. And I will show you too with this big box. It's nice and thick. You can see the flap right there. So even if your board game is a little bit more thick than this one, it'll still work in this box. But if you're desperate and can't find another way to ship it, you can always use the board game box. Okay, guys, so the second way you can do it is a 1095 box. These are also free from USPS. They're nice and thick, just like the board game box itself is. You can see, though, it's not big enough to just use one of these. So if you're going to use a 1095 box, you have to use two boxes, which isn't a big deal. You just can cut one of them or whatever, and one end of them will seal. So you can seal the one end, seal the other end, put them together. That's kind of how I'm going to do it, but I'm actually not going to use this 1095 box just because it's so big and so thick. This is a skinny little board game, so I don't have to use a box that's this big or this thick. Okay, next one, box 1092. It's a little bit, you can see on this, if I can get it open here. This one is not quite as thick as the box that I just showed you, the 1095, and it's not as long. So same thing here, you would have to use two boxes, but if you have a thinner game, like I do, this might be a better bet because it's thin. It's more of a thin box, and you can just put two of them together, just like the same way. I will show you how to do that, but this is also not the box I'm going to use. I better show you 1095 or 1092. But again, also free from USPS. You can order those from their website. So I'm going to now show you the box that I'm actually going to use. Okay, guys. So the box that I'm going to use is a box 1097. Again, also free. But you can see it's a smaller box, and it's even more thin than the 1092 and 1095. But for a board game of this size, it'll fit perfectly. I will have to use two of them, which I'll go through the process and show you how I do that. But there's the flap, there's the other flap, so I'll just put the other one on top like that. So I wanted to show you, obviously not all board games are this size. So I wanted to just go over a couple other ones, like this one you can see, obviously not as long. This will fit in a 1095 box. You can just cut it off and put it together. Because none of these except for that big board game one is a flat rate. So the 1095, 1092, 1097, none of them are flat rate, so you can modify them however you need to as long as it ships priority. So you can do that for a board game like this. That's a different size box. Okay, so here's a different size board game. You can see it's obviously a little bit more thick, and it's actually just a tad bit longer than this one. On something like this where it's more thick, I would probably use two of the 1095 boxes because it will still fit in this, and you just put them together, and that's going to be a cheaper option than using the flat rate board game box. Okay, so here's another one, Bargain Hunter. Obviously it's a really thick box. None of those boxes that I showed you guys would work for this if you left them as they are. I did a shoe mod for a 1095 box that I put in one of the other videos. I'll link it actually right up here. Or maybe this side, I don't know. Anyways. You can use that shoe mod with this. You'd have to do it twice. But it'll fit a board game like this that's a little bit more thick and more difficult to ship. And it makes it pretty simple for you. So if you have games like this, don't be afraid to list them. Check out my video that I learned that box mod from Renzi, but check out that video. It would work for something like this. You just put two of them together and it'll work. So now I'm going to show you actually how I'm going to be shipping this game. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, like obviously all the pieces are in here. One thing that I try to do is make sure that they are all in bags so they're not flopping all over or you lose any pieces. And bags are super cheap. You can see it has all the normal inserts and then the board game itself. So what I will do, I'm going to get some bubble wrap. I'll wrap this up nice and tight and tape it so that the lid doesn't come off in shipping. So I'm going to do that real quick. All right, so I start by putting the bubble wrap around it lengthwise. Noah's showing you here on the film, so I'll actually put it kind of like this, where I can tuck this part underneath, so that I know that it's covered. And I just got a big, huge length because I'm going to go around it this way also. But I start it lengthwise. I'll cut it off here, and then I'll put a little piece of tape on, like this. And then I'll put a little piece of tape on. Alright guys, so I have that part done. So now I'm going to go around this way. So I'll start. I actually will try to tuck this part in when I fold this part up. Kind of helps to make it be a little bit more clean. I do this. I'll put a little piece of tape on this to hold it. Alright, so then once I have that, I'll just kind of fold it over. And again, I try to tuck that side down in. And some people might just cut it off and go piece at a time. I'm just going to try to wrap the whole thing up right now. It may not look as good, but honestly, I don't care that much. So I have it like that. I'll put a piece of tape on that to hold it. And that's pretty much all I do to bubble wrap it. Pretty easy and simple. So then I take my 1097 box, prep the one end, okay, so once you have that end in, go ahead and put that one side of it in. Just like that, and then we'll get another one to just go over the other side. Okay guys, so I have the other side built, 1097. It's just going to go underneath. So what I will do is I'll cut all of these flaps off really quick, and then I actually smash the corners in. Noah's going to pause it, and I'm going to do all of that real quick, and then you'll be able to see. Okay, so you guys can see I just ripped all the top parts off of the little flaps. Now I'm going to indent the corners. You can see there's plenty of room in between the box and the game. So indenting the corners isn't going to hurt the board game itself on either side because it can move around a little bit, which is fine because once it's sealed and taped up, it won't be moving. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. Maybe what I'll actually do. Okay, so I actually decided to cut it and fold it in up against it. So I will actually put a little piece of tape on both sides just to kind of help hold the game board itself in place so that it doesn't wiggle around. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so you guys can see I just put some tape just to kind of hold that down on either side. Now I'm going to take the other 1097 box and put it over the top. It is going to rip because they're the exact same size box, but I'll tape it up so it won't make that big of a deal. Alright, so I do rip off all of the flaps on the second box because it's just extra weight that we don't need. The one that I do leave is this one because it has a self-seal. So once I get it on, I will seal it to the other one. It just kind of helps keep it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one over, and I'll do that really quick. Like I said, again, it is going to rip the box, but it just is what it is. So because those corners are in, it goes over pretty easily, and then once you start to push it down, it'll probably rip the box. So, yeah, it did rip a little bit, but you can see not all the way. Yeah, just that one side. So that's it. That's the size. It's tight against the board game there. I am going to go ahead and rip this off and seal that down just kind of as an extra measurement of tape to keep it in place. So I'm going to do that. If I can get it.
Satisfying peel.
There we go.
Look at that.
So just like that. Then I'm just going to tape it all up, and then I'll show you guys how easy it is to ship. Okay, so I have it all taped. I tape all the way down till I'm after where it has ripped. And then I also run one along this way, and I run one piece of tape along the outside. I do this one out here because I've heard that people can just heat this up and this will open. I don't know if that's true or not, but just to be cautious, I want to run around the outside. Once it's all done, I mean, it's pretty easy to measure. 20 by 12 by 3. And then you can go ahead and put that into eBay for your shipping. You should have already weighed it before you listed it so that you have an idea and put in semi-dimensions. Like when I do dimensions, I know I'm going to be using this style of a box to ship it. And so I'll measure the length of the board game, add probably an inch, and then same with this way. I'll measure it this way, add an inch, and then I know it's usually either going to be 3 or 4 depending upon what box I have to use. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get the measurements and weigh it. Alright guys, you can see I have it on my scale. Total weight is 2 pounds, 10 ounces I'll say. And it, like I said, it was 20 by 12 by 3. So I'm going to enter all of that into eBay. And I'm going to hide their address here. But I'll enter that all into eBay and I'll get my shipping label printed out. Tell me when.
Okay.
Alright guys, so you can see shipping is only $8.33 for this game. Whereas had I used that flat rate board box game, it would have cost me $19. So that's $11 difference in doing it this way. So it's much cheaper, and it's really not that difficult to put this together. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Check out my video on how to modify the box if you have like a bigger, thicker board game, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.